Alright guys, so we have one more thing I want to talk about, and that is going to be lung volumes and capacities. So what's important to note here is this is a way that we assess lung function. Okay, so how much air can we get in and out of the lungs at a time? And there are three main factors, all right, that determine that. So sex, obviously, males would have a higher capacity. All right, people who are of a larger size, all right, age, okay, so kids, older adults are going to have less lung capacity. And then physical condition, obviously, if you're an athlete, your breathing is going to be your muscles for breathing are going to be much more fit, so to speak, okay? So this is something you really need to know, okay? And so let's go through to the next page and talk about some of these volumes. So there's volumes and then there's capacities, all right? And so the respiratory volumes are what we can measure, okay? So that is what we would measure in the lab that we were supposed to do if we weren't quarantined. And the capacities are going to be what we use these volumes in order to calculate. So down here, for example, all right, we can calculate your total lung capacity. So that's the maximum amount of air that can fit into your lungs. Okay, you can see that it's a combination of all of these volumes. Your vital capacity is going to be the maximum amount of air that you can exhale after a maximal inhale. Okay, and so again, we can't measure that by itself. We have to look at all of these values in order to get that. All right, so volumes are what we can directly measure. Capacities, okay, are what we calculate. So let's look at them. Okay. We can use respiratory volumes and capacities to evaluate respiratory function, all right? But we're not going to use them specifically to diagnose, say, lung cancer, bronchitis, COVID-19, all right? So they're not, it's not like you have a range that your capacity has to be in, and if you're not there, then you have asthma, for example, all right? So let's just start with tidal volume. Tidal volume is easy because this is just your typical normal breathing. Okay, so your typical normal breathing, okay, is about 500 milliliters. Okay, so that is, as again, you're sitting there, you're taking in normal breaths, you're not taking a deep breath. Okay, you're not huffing and puffing. All right, just the normal breaths that you take, about 500 milliliters. Now we have this other dead space volume, all right, that is going to be not really super important for you to know. So I'm just going to mention it, but it's essentially the normal amount of air. About 150 milliliters of this 500 never actually reaches the alveoli, all right, and so we call that dead space volume. So we really get about 350 into our lungs with each of our breaths. Okay, and again, that's an average, so it can be higher if you're a bigger person, or it might be a little bit lower if you're a smaller person. Okay. Also, physical fitness has a big role there. How do I get? There we go. Okay. Your IRV, your inspiratory reserve volume. Go ahead right now and let's just take a deep breath in. Okay, kind of like as if you were doing yoga. The maximal breath in. All right, now what you've done, all right, in order to get your inspiratory capacity, your inspiratory reserve volume, is you've gone beyond, okay, so from here to here was your tidal volume, right? You go beyond that when you take a deep breath in, okay? And so this is the amount of extra air that you're now taking into your lungs by taking a deep breath in, okay? Right? So as you can see, in males, about 3,100 milliliters, females, about 1,900, probably a little bit bigger numbers here if you're an athlete, all right? Then, after you've taken this big breath in, let's get this big breath in. Okay, I don't know if my pen's working. right? After you're taking this big breath in, now you have this big breath out, okay? And so now your expiratory reserve volume is going to be the maximum amount of air that you're exhaling, okay, after a normal tidal expiration, okay? So that means, okay, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and now as you're exhaling, try and force any extra air out that you can. Okay, that's your ERV. All right, my pen's working again. So here is your deep breath in, right? Okay, now your normal exhalation. Now let's force any extra air out. Get about that much more out. So it's about 1,200 milliliters more that we can exhale forcefully, right? If we use, again, we'll think about the muscles that we're using, our abdominal muscles, our internal intercostals, and really squeezing against our lungs here to force any extra air out. Okay. All right, so maximum inhale right there versus maximum exhale. Okay. And then we have to account for, well, how do we keep the lungs inflated? Okay. And that's what we're looking at here with residual volume. As you notice, there's nothing to be measured here. Okay. Meaning that this is not something that we can, this is air that is trapped in our lungs that does not get out. Okay. So your residual volume is important because it's going to be the air that remains in your lungs at all times. All right. And it's essentially keeping your lungs inflated. And why is that important? Well, because in between each of your inhalations and exhalations, you need to make sure that we're constantly supplying the blood with supplying the blood with oxygen. Okay. So the fact that we always have some oxygen-rich air inside of our alveoli means that gas exchange can constantly go on. All right. It's continuously going on between your breaths. Your alveoli are staying inflated. Remember, if they don't stay inflated, they pop like balloons, right? And now you're essentially suffocating. Okay. So vital capacity is not, again, one of our volumes that we measure. This is going to be, if you look at vital capacity here, it's going to be your IRV, your tidal volume, and your ERV all added together. Okay, so that means this is going to be the maximum amount of air that you can inhale and exhale in one breath. Okay, so for example, you need to blow out candles on a birthday cake. You got to take a deep breath in, right? And then you have to take and then you have to forcefully exhale out in order to blow all those candles out on a birthday cake. So if we said, all right, what capacity, all right, would account for that? All right, that would be our vital capacity. Oops. All right. The last thing you have here is how much air, all right, total amount of air all right. So your total lung capacity, again, that is going to include the air that never even leaves. Okay. So it's your vital capacity plus your residual volume. Okay. So let's do VC plus RV equals TLC. Boom, we're done. Okay. So let's talk about lung compliance. When we talk about lung compliance, what that means, and again, I'm going to do another video on obstructive versus restrictive diseases, but I just want to quickly talk about this, is that if we have good lung compliance, so think about when people are compliant, they're easy to work with, right? It's easier for us to expand our lungs. So diseases that like emphysema, which causes scar tissue around the lung, right? That makes the lung really heavy and really dense, and the lungs can no longer expand. So like you can't get a whole lot of air inside your lungs because they won't blow up like a balloon. All right, so we want high lung compliance. All right, we have this surfactant, which if you think back to the Pogel, surfactant was the substance, this waxy, fatty substance on the inside of the alveoli that keep them inflated, right, decreasing surface tension so that the lungs don't collapse. Okay, so that's really important here. And I think we talked about infants don't produce the surfactant until very late. Okay, so if they're born prematurely, they may not have enough surfactant to breathe on their own. Okay. All right, so pulmonary fibrosis, all right, a disease where we get some scar tissue replacing lung tissue. Now those lungs can't expand, right? If we didn't produce enough surfactant, right, that could be problematic. Or say you broke a rib and now you can't expand your thoracic cage, so your intercostal muscles cannot expand, or sorry, elevate the rib cage, right, in order for you to take in air, right? These three things are the main reasons why we would have some diminished lung compliance. So the lungs would not be able to fill completely with air. All right, so this is just a quick overview on our lung volumes and capacities. So if I can really quickly, we can go back to this little graph. Let me go on the previous page. I didn't write all over. Right, and this would be something that I would want you to make sure that you know, right? So let's just think max inhale, normal breathing, okay, max exhale, residual volume, amount of air. Oops. I don't know what I did there. That always remains in the lungs. Okay. This would be your max inhale plus max exhale, right? And this is the total amount of air that can fit in your lungs. All right, and so that's just our quick sort of overview. You don't need to know the inspiratory capacity and the functional residual capacity. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you watch this next video on obstructive versus restrictive diseases, and then that's it. I'm going to give you some analysis questions to answer to see if you can apply some of this.